Welcome to the Attention Now podcast, where we talk to successful business people, provide quality content and business mindset, and a path on how to succeed. Today on the show, we have Prime Hall. Prime is an entrepreneur, MARSOC Marine Raider, CEO of Deep End Fitness and Underwater Torpedo League, UTL, and also a co-founder of Marine Raider Challenge. He's a master trainer and also an author. He has a book published. Prime, Semper Fi, brother. Welcome to the show.
Semper Fidelis. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on here today, and just excited for our audience to get to know you and hear what you're currently working on, and a little bit about what you did in the Corps as well. What years did you serve?
I was in from 2005 to 2017.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and I'm not gonna cover a lot of the Corps, just very highlights, right? Because this is more for business, and we're on a new chapter nowadays, right? What was one of the most valuable lessons you learned in the Marine Corps?
It would have to have been I got into a little bit of trouble my first couple of years when I was in, and I did get the NJP non-judicial punishment where I lost rank. And so I ended up being a private 3 different times and being able to operate with no rank. I think in understanding how to still be able to have leadership or navigate things without rank has helped me a lot, you know, post Marine Corps. Those experiences that I had, because it's very humbling when you lose all your rank, also time and time again. Um, and then the other part is the alcohol. So alcohol related incidents, a lot of the incidents in the Marine Corps are alcohol related when people get in trouble or bad things happen. And that was the case for me. So I learned very on and that that was my barrier. And so I went and did 10 years without drinking at all when I was in the Marines. And that was
Oh,
kind of
wow.
that was how I was able to evolve and perform and be able to get into special operations and really advance as far as I did, was because I didn't drink at all during that time. And then when I got out, I got medically retired and separated out. I was in an explosion in Afghanistan in 2012, and then years later, I was having different issues, and they found out that I had some different things going on that I ended up getting retired for. So um, when that happened, I, you know, was like a fish out of water. What am I going to do? And found my way back to full training and, all of the experience that I had in the service.
Awesome. And we'll cover that in a second. But the next question I was gonna ask you is, what's your biggest struggle? But I think you actually answered both with what was the most valuable lesson, unless there was something else. I think that you kind of covered both of them, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I grew up in with very little authority, and
Okay.
a lot of time spent on my own when I was a kid. And then I went to military boarding school, which was a Marine academy. So when I was at that boarding school, that's when I started to kind of start to understand, negative and positive leadership and how that works in that military structure. And then I started to respect authorities in different ways when I was at military school, because I had a really good drill instructor that mentored me. So I really respected him. And I remember that, that was really impactful to me growing up. And I always respected my grandfather and certain, people in my family, but I did have a real problem with authority. And so that was one of the things that the Marine Corps kind of taught me, how to navigate that as best as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of Marines do, right? Once it's like when you're going through boot camp, it's like, man, I got to take all this, but you learn to it actually helps you grow, right? It helps you grow and get ahead. And I think that's why a lot of veterans should actually own their own business like you do, right? Because it's great to be
Right.
able to run your own thing, and you know, be more profitable and stuff, and which we'll talk about that in a minute. And I like what you were saying about no rank, because I know I've heard you a couple times say about imposter syndrome, that some people, it's like, hey, you know what? I did so many deployments. I did more than you. It's like, you know what? I've never been played that game in my past, right? It's like, you know what? You're a person. I respect you, what you did, whatever it was. We were, you know, it wasn't our choice what we did, right? It's that was just our calling, and that's the way life works. It's like you don't control anything in life, right? So
Right.
we're just following what you know what is assigned to us. So I love that you talk a lot about that. I've met some other people that live in the past, and that's all I talk about, right? So I'm glad that you were able to make that change, that different mindset. And that was going to be my next question. Where did the right mindset come from you? Was that more family or Marine Corps, or like for success, for business success?
My grandmother was always, I had different, my uncle Steve was a marketing executive when I was growing up. So, he had like a large mansion in San Antonio and, had all these, had a garage full of cars and
Nice.
had a huge agency, on the Riverwalk and, had this San Antonio account, the Spurs. So we had access to all these things because of Uncle Steve's success.
Okay.
And then I had like my grandmother growing up. My grandparents are in the construction business, and so they built houses down in South Texas, and then they ended up building a lot of apartment complexes. And what they started to do was also build apartment complexes for them to own. And that's kind of what they ended up like their business ended up. They ended up owning real estate and a bunch of apartment complexes and stuff like that. So I grew up watching my grandmother manage like, hundreds of properties and just constantly doing that. And my grandfather managing construction sites with like 100 people on it. And some of them were like straight, felons that were hardcore guys that worked construction, but they
Okay.
just did stuff after hours that was, and all that. So I was constantly seeing like what success looked like and what hard work and success looked like as well. And I worked construction since a young age, but on top of that, I always saw like my grandparents always did a lot of goodwill, and my family has always done a lot of goodwill in the community. And like we would go every year to Mexico and cross in Matamoros on the two, and we would collect clothes and toys and bikes and like all this stuff all year long. And we would go over there every year on Christmas and we would deliver everything and we would pack food and groceries and do all
Wow.
these things. Every year we'd have a caravan of like, 20, and it got to a point to where when the security situation got so bad, like after 9/11-ish, around that time and the years preceding, it got to a point to where they wouldn't let us in. And so we would just have to come and find any neighborhoods that we could on the American side. But we would bribe them to get in,
Oh,
basically.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so but we would do that every Christmas. And so I grew up since I can remember doing that. And that was always the best part of Christmas, was going to give out all that stuff. And so I kind of always had that wired into my grandmother, always on top of managing all those different properties. She would run a women's club where they would do all this like benevolent acts for different women in the community. And she did all that in a secretive way to where no one ever knew, but she was always doing all these things. And then she was also working for the Cancer Society. So she would go and meet with cancer patients in the
Oh my
hospital
gosh.
in between doing all the other million things. So
Man, she was a go-getter. Holy cow.
yeah. And so
Wow.
my grandparents were my kind of like my parents growing up. So
Okay.
I've kind of always that's where that's what I was around a lot. So that's kind of what I gravitated towards. And
That's awesome to be able to see that, right? And I think a lot of people that don't have that, there's groups and associations that you guys could get around, right? To learn that, right? because not everybody is fortunate enough to have that or have somebody in their family that's successful. So just get around the right people to help you succeed. But that's an awesome story, and especially the giving, right? A lot of people, a lot of people say, you know what, I'd like to make a lot of money and be really successful, but it seems like you get more joy of giving and helping people, right? Which is incredible. Which you wouldn't think that's normal or common sense, but once you do it, it's like wow, that's powerful. So that's awesome. What keeps you going daily?
So the why, the purpose, the big why for me was
Okay,
always was and going through the military, like what kept me going the whole time was my grandparents.
okay,
And I always wanted to make my grandparents proud. And so no matter what I did, no matter what I was doing in the military, they were proud of me, as long as I wasn't obviously getting into trouble. Um, they were proud of me, so that was a huge accomplishment for me. And anytime I got a medal or I got any kind of thing like that, it would always just be meaningful because I could tell them about it, and that was the big why. But since as I got out, I met my wife pretty much the year that I got out of that I was medically separating. I met my wife, and so I have two kids here and a family now. So it's kind of, my grandparents are still living, and I talk to my grandmother every day or
oh
like
wow,
every six
okay.
days, 6 days a week. Because there's probably one day a week she just doesn't answer her phone.
Is she still in
Um,
Texas?
yeah,
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 okay,
she's down in South Padre Island,
okay,
and I see them like probably once every couple months that I go down, but they really just have instilled a lot into me. And so that's carried me through a long way in my life. And now, what gets me through every day is I can always think about my kids. And like, one, I want to set a good example for my kids.
yep.
I want to do all those things. So that's kind of a no-brainer for me. And I get to work with a lot of athletes and fighters and different UFC fighters and stuff like that. And so as for mindset. And so a lot of times we go through before a fight, like, well, why are you doing this? Why are you committing to this fight? What is it that's going to get you through this fight? And why are you doing this? Right. And sometimes it's someone that's been a world champion before and now they're not. And it's like, but you've already done all of this. Why are you doing this fight? And you look at the other opponent and they might be fighting for their whole country or their bloodline or their ancestry or whatever else. And so if you're fighting because you just need to get paid, well, then that's not a strong enough why that when you're really getting beat down in the second or third round, that you're going to be able to think about that or use that to get through that, right? Like at a certain point, money doesn't matter and you just want to go home.
Right.
But
Yeah, you got to have something that you love and it's going to be able to flip that switch to keep going, right? So
yeah,
unless you
so
have
for
some,
me, yeah, for me, that's my kids
okay, awesome,
any day of the
awesome.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what keeps me going to my kids as well, right? So have a little one and I have some older boys, but you know what? You got to set that example for them. And I'm sure your grandparents are super proud of you, brother, for what you've done and you changed and growing your family. So I'm glad that they were in your life and set that example. And we just got to carry that forward to the next generation, right? So I'm sure that you're doing a great job with that already as well. So, with the mindset, confidence helps, with mental clarity, just like in the boot camp confidence course, repelling. But I think water takes it to the next level, right? Because you have to immediately adjust your mind. And speaking of that, I know you guys have a book called Free Your Mind Guidebook, right? It's on Amazon that you and Don wrote. So if you
Hmm.
guys, I'll put a link on here as well. You guys check that out. I think I'm gonna actually order one when we're done here as well, so I could get an understanding as well on that. But and I did actually have the pleasure of having dinner with Don Tran and James English, and they have a great team. So I just wanted to talk a little bit since it is the month of mental health awareness. What are some of the solutions? Because you said you struggle with some of the things, obviously from combat, from when you were younger, right? what was some of the things that you were able to change that mindset, kind of like we were talking about earlier, right? Make that switch. Because there's a lot of different, there's different stuff that you'll get from the VA and you hear horror stories. I know another MARSOC guy that, had a hard time and, he's in trouble with the law now for being on drugs for too long. But there are other solutions out there, right, to be able to help you. And that's what I kind of want to do is with the podcast, bring attention to what's out there. So if you could actually talk a little bit about what you've done to help you to make that change, to make that switch, that would be awesome. So the audience could hear.
Absolutely. So, I've done a ton of different therapies, but when I was getting medically separated, they had me go to enhanced exposure therapy. So that was basically just revisiting all of the different traumatic or different combat memories or
Okay.
um, things that I could recall that triggered any kind of response, and then having replaying that over and over again, recording yourself, listening to it. Then they would give me different homework assignments, like going to Disneyland or doing something like that, where it was completely out of my comfort zone because I didn't want to be in groups at that time. And
Okay.
it just exposed me over and over and over again. And then that was, I guess, beneficial because I was kind of feeling like reclusive at that
Okay. So kind of
time.
open the door a little bit for the first step. Okay.
Yeah, and then the next thing I did was rapid response therapy, and so that really opened up a lot for me, and that's where you they hypnotize you and
Okay.
go in and do different therapy and finding things that bother you or finding corrupt data files is kind of how they frame it. But
Okay.
um, after I went through that, I kind of got access to a lot of things that I had been buried down for most of my life. And so that's kind of opened Pandora's box a little bit too.
Okay.
So what but I was on a lot of medications when I got out from the VA,
Yep.
over 12,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I was probably taking maybe six of them or
Wow.
seven. So I found myself in this state of taking my meds in the morning, and I was in a lot of pain too, but taking the meds for pain, which is it's never enough. You start taking them, you need more, but all the other meds that I was taking, and I would be sitting on the couch at early in the morning, and my wife would be like, what's wrong with you?" And I'm just like, look like a zombie, like I'm out of it.
Oh wow.
And normally I'm a pretty go-getter person. I got a lot of projects and things going on, and but when I took all those medications, I just did not feel like myself, and I felt started to feel detached from reality a little bit. So
Okay.
the first step for me was getting off of the meds, um,
Was
which
that tough? Was that tough getting off those?
um,
You probably didn't feel like you're in a daze though, so it's probably an advantage as well, right?
yeah, and at first it's kind of because some of them I was using as a crutch,
Okay.
anti-anxiety medicine, sleep medicine, pain medicine,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so but yeah, but that stuff's also killing my sleep because I'm taking sleep medicine. So I started to have positive results pretty much within like days of stopping taking the meds.
Okay.
But I was also diagnosed ADD, so I have Adderall, so
Oh my gosh.
I was in business school, so I was taking Adderall because all my other medicines made me feel like a zombie. So all these things were just like that. So once I stopped all my meds and got off of them, that's when I started to feel some positive results. But done a lot of like integration therapy, psychedelic assisted therapy, and right now I have 5 years of at the end of this year, I'll have 5 years of no alcohol. But
Okay.
that's been a huge thing too, because um, one of the things that I did to get off track when I got out, I went straight into business school, which was great. It was a blessing because I pretty much got out of the Marine Corps 1 month and went right into USC business school the
Oh,
next
that's
month.
perfect. Okay.
So it was direct. So I didn't have any lull time or anything like that. But that I felt so much social anxiety when I was in class and around this group all the
Right.
time that I felt like I needed to mask it with drinking, and
Okay.
everybody else was drinking. And so it felt like that was just what I was going to need to do to get through that 2 year MBA course.
Okay.
And it that that plan worked until it didn't work. So the alcohol got to me again. But I was also didn't understand how hard transition was going to be, and what that was going to be like to go from pretty much being like a robot in a checklist mentality, just bam 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 knock out tasks, to like coming out and starting to do these different things where I feel like a human again. And now I'm processing certain things or dealing with certain things. Now I have kids, which is also having me process things from all kinds of stuff. So, um, I didn't know what that process was going to be like. And so, it's been a huge journey, and, a lot of learning,
And
along the way, and takeaways.
well, thanks, brother, for sharing that. And I think what you said last is really important for a lot of people, right? It's a journey, right? So there, all this didn't happen within a couple months or a year, probably, 4 or 5 years, whatever the case was. And just wanted to let people know out there, if you're going through something, it's going to take a little bit of time, but you could actually, there's help out there for you guys, right? If you want to reach out to me, I'm sure Prime would talk to you guys as well. We're here to help you guys out. But congratulations on making that turn, Prime. A lot of people never get that opportunity, right? So it's great to be able to tell those stories so people understand what's happening. So I greatly appreciate that. Uh, so I know that your business right now, with the Deep End Fitness and Underwater Torpedo League, that actually helps with mindset as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you can
Anytime you
you,
go
can you tell us a little
underwater,
bit about that? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So Don Tran and I, my partner Don and I, both met each other in special operations training in the Marine Corps back in about 15 years ago. And after that, we were at Marine Raider selection course in North Carolina, and we met at one of the events that we had. And so since then, we've been really close friends and partners. But we ended up coming back and running a pool here at Camp Pendleton together for about a year. So we ended up getting a ton of valuable experience that we didn't even know at the time, that's translated into us. We both got out in 2017, and when we put our heads together, we wanted to create something that would have the most impact from a training and performance perspective for any kind of athlete, to include military, professional athlete, what we had gone through, Marine Raiders, military athletes, all that. So the one thing we kept going back to was the underwater training and the pool training, because we've seen so many transformations training people in the pool, even after 30 minutes or an hour, and just the confidence, the water confidence, and the different things that are unlocked sometimes is really powerful. And that's not something that we've seen, training people in the gym or going for a run or whatever that looks like. So we created a beta test or a pilot program at the end of 2017 for two things: to start a training program of Deep End Fitness, which is basically CrossFit meets the water, and a full, systematic building block approach to training at the pool, and mixing up breath work, mindset, water confidence, and movement around the pool in a creative format that really hasn't been done in a scalable format before. And we started with two pools here in Southern California, as well as Underwater Torpedo League, which is the sport that was adapted from a game we used to play in the Marines called underwater football.
Okay.
And so the exciting thing about that game was anytime that we played, we could have people with very low water confidence that would forget about their fears of the water and just start playing the game, and they would do all kinds of stuff that they couldn't do before, that they never knew they could do, or go down to the bottom at 15 feet when they had never done that or whatever it is. And the only thing that changed about it was we were now playing a game and they stopped focusing on themselves and they started focusing on something external. So like one of the big takeaways that I have from any of my like, breakdowns that I've had or really tough times or challenges that I've gone through is there's a saying, when in doubt, focus out. And so like when you're in a bad time, as hard as it is, focus on someone else, that's in a probably in a worse spot than you are,
Right.
that you could make a difference for, that you could help them out. And that's a thing. But with the underwater training, the aha moment kept coming for the last 15 years or however long it was at that point, for people that would shift their focus and then start focusing on the torpedo or the goal or whatever it is. And then that is a huge aha moment for a lot of things. And so we call it mental focus. But when you're able to focus externally on something, you can unlock a lot of results. And that's one of the things that we train ourselves to do when we do the underwater training.
That's awesome because when you're actually playing the game, you're not thinking about it. Because if you think about it, when you're first a kid and you're out swimming, people throw stuff at the bottom of the pool for you to go get it, right? So
Yeah.
and you're not thinking about having to dive deep. So it's just kind of similar concept, which I love. That's great. And where are your trainings? Are they nationwide? Are they just
Yes.
local? How do people participate? And the other thing, I saw some videos where there's kids, women, men, boxers, UFC, veterans, first responders. So this is pretty much for everybody because it's the water, right? And even people that are 65 and over, because there's not the water's not going to hurt you, right? So you're able to train in that. But go ahead, sorry, I wanted to bring it up
Absolutely.
first.
Non-load bearing.
Right.
And but yeah, great question. So we have 35 locations that are active across the United States. And we have about 30 more that are in the pipeline that will be opening within the next 6 months, 6 to 12 months.
Okay.
Um, and a lot of them are in key cities. So in those, like for example, in Southern California, we have a lot of UFC fighters. We also have the LA Chargers. We have the San Diego Padres. We
Nice.
have some different professional athlete or sports teams that we work with. But outside of that, it's really a huge community of people that are from all walks of life. Some of them are business executives. Some of them are surfers, military, civilian, health and wellness, free divers. Like it's really, what we call a warrior class of people that,
Okay.
is creates a really strong community because it's not just military, it's all walks of life, and they all kind of connect on the aspect of, they're coming there to grow and evolve and get better, not just by doing that workout in the pool, but in whatever it is that they're doing in life too.
Yeah, I definitely see a huge need for this, right? And just meeting Don this weekend, I posted a couple of videos, and our friend Hiram Figueroa posted on LinkedIn as well. I think in a couple of days, we got over 100,000 hits on this, right? And I actually looked at your TikTok videos, and then some of those have 1 million hits. So a lot of
Yeah.
people have a big interest in this. And basically, do they just go to your website to sign up, or what's usually the best process to do that?
Yeah.
No, and
And
actually, before you answer that, well, how long is the training? Is it a week? Is it a couple days? Or is there different formats for that?
there are different formats. So we do private trainings with groups and modify the format to personalize to the group with
Okay.
whatever that looks like. But typically, if you go to a group class, you're looking at an hour and a half
Okay.
training. If you go to the instructor course, you're looking for at an 8 hour course.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. So people
Um,
could hire you
yeah,
guys for like team building as well then.
absolutely. Yeah. And we have a travel team. We have 250 instructors across the country, but we have a travel team that travels out. We just got back from doing the Green Bay Packers a couple weeks ago. We just had a huge training with the Marine Corps last week. And we're constantly, doing different trainings to create impact.
Awesome. Awesome. And then
I have a couple other things. Like the main media that we work off of is Instagram.
okay.
We go viral a lot on there. Some of our videos have over 80 million views,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and that's on Deep End Fitness and Underwater Torpedo League. So the big update for Deep End Fitness is our goal is to hit 100 locations by the end of this year. We're on track. We're on track to hit at least 80 for sure. Um, the uh, um, the Underwater Torpedo League, we just signed a media deal with Caffeine TV.
Oh, awesome.
So all of our matches, even the matches from the last year, will be broadcasted on Caffeine TV starting next Saturday, June 29th. And so that's going to be, they're also going to be the live stream and broadcasting partner for Underwater Torpedo League, which is going to allow us to really drive business, sponsors, awareness, everything to UTL, and then also back to Deep in Fitness.
And how do people sign up the same way for
Yeah, so
UTL?
they
They
can
can
go
just
to
join a team.
oh yeah, they can go to UTL and fill out the contact form to join a team.
Okay.
Or put a team in, sign up a team. We have teams that travel from all over the country to come compete. We have our next regional tournament is August 3rd weekend in Austin, Texas. And then the Aqua Bowl final championship of the year will be at the end of September here in Newport, California.
Awesome. And how many people are on a team?
12.
12 people. 12 people on the team.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. And we have around 16 active teams right now. So the tournaments are very competitive. We have a rookies division and a pro division that competes. So if there's a new team looking to compete, we do have a new division or a rookie division
Okay.
that kind of serves as that beginner level or beginner to intermediate level.
And for the UTL, is that you guys have a schedule if people want to come watch the matches where they could go come watch it as well, be spectators?
Yes, we do. We offer spectators at all of our UTL events. And
Okay.
we have the live stream that broadcasts to the TV at the pool as well.
Okay.
But the best way to get involved with UTL is to check out the UTL, which I'll send you the link,
Okay.
the Caffeine TV UTL page, which is going to be hosting all of the matches starting next weekend, all the way through the summer into the live events that we're hosting.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely post that on the podcast. So thank you for sending that link. And what are you guys looking at? So obviously you got a big expansion plan, right? Are you guys doing that all self-funding? Are you guys looking for looking for funds from investors? What are you guys doing for that?
Yeah, it's both. So right now we're closing, or our biggest goal is just continuing to drive the expansion and sales. But with the demand signal that we have, our biggest focus this year has been creating regionalized hubs in Austin, Texas, to service Central US, and then Miami, Florida, to service the East Coast, which we are pretty deep in the process of setting those up. Austin is more set up than Miami, but our goal in doing that is so that we could have instructor training, train the trainer operations going at all of those locations, so that we don't become the bottleneck here in Southern California at the
Right.
headquarters level. So, but we are doing a crowdfunding round
Oh, nice.
that we're launching next week. So we did one of those in 2020, and it created a big opportunity for people to join our network or get involved with people that maybe weren't involved at the time but had been seeing what we were doing. Yeah, we're making a huge positive ripple effect across the country. We're going to Dubai for our first international location next month, and it's super exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, actually, I got a buddy that lives overseas. I'm going to send him the information. He's a special ops guy as well. I mean, I think he's in Turkey or something like that. So I'm going to send that to him and see if we could get you guys out there as well. You're going to send me the link for the crowd. Do you have the link for the crowdfunding as well that you could send that to me?
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Okay.
if you're good with it, I'll text you all of these links.
Okay, awesome. That'd be great. All right, perfect. Let me just see what else. Can you give the audience some words of wisdom on how to succeed?
Mm. So I think of having people in your corner and think of yourself like a fighter. And you got people in your corner that are your cornermen, corner women, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And when you have people in your corner, like I had my grandparents in my corner growing up, when you have people in your corner, you can do really hard things. You can go through a fight, you can go through things, you can go through challenges. So, but you got to have the right people in your corner. And if you find someone that is not right to have in your corner, you got to get them out. Um,
Yeah,
but
I think a lot of people struggle with that, right? Because they think it's like, you know what, I can't pull that person out of my life. They've been in my life forever, but if they're not adding value to your life, what are they really doing, right? They're bringing you down, like you mentioned. So just keep that in mind. I've done that myself. It took me many years to do it, but once you're able to do that, you're able to focus and follow the people that are actually moving ahead. But go ahead.
yeah, and the what was the last point that we just hit?
Oh, just getting the wrong people out of your life, right?
Yeah, but having the right people, and we call it a circle of trust
Yep.
anytime we go to the pool, but having people in your life that uh that you trust, that you could depend on is very important. Um, and so I can't stress that enough. But the other part is if you want to make a change, you have to get out. You gotta, if you want like exponential growth to do something, you have to change something that you're doing. So you have to, like for me, one of the hardest things is silly, but one of the hardest things I've done that I feels like I've done since I've gotten out is going to emotional intelligence courses
Okay.
since I've gotten out of the military. And a lot of it is people, I would feel so uncomfortable and it would be people that were clapping or celebrating or giving hugs or something. And I would want to run out of the room. And then I would, start to learn about myself. Well, why does this bother me so much? Well, why does this, well, what am I missing? Because like, it's if there were a fight breaking out, that would be totally comfortable with that. But
Engaging, right?
because everybody wants to give me a hug, I want to crawl out of my skin. What is the learning and feedback to that? So, the other part in how to be successful is always being open, always being humble, but also always being open that you could learn from anybody. There could be somebody outside walking down the street that stops and says something to you that could teach you something meaningful about something, you
That's
know.
true. That's
Um,
true.
and so that beginner's mindset is huge. Um, but yeah, man. And then the other part, or last piece on being successful is have mentors, seek mentors, reach out to them, research, find them, and give them an opportunity to give back too for all the wealth of knowledge and experience. People want to give back. So find mentors that you could build a relationship that'll be mutually symbiotic with them and you, and then also find mentees that you can have that you can bring up that are underneath you that are, for me, that's people that are transitioning out of the military because I've been out now for 7 years, or people that are going into the military, not and all that. So and then having training partners and people that are somewhat on your level that you can, bounce ideas off of, talk to, work through things with, get their feedback, all that stuff. But
Yeah, life is a lot easier when you have successful people and like you said, mentors because they've been through it, right? A lot of times it's like, being Marines, it's like, you know what, dude, I can figure this out myself. I got it, right? But just think about it. If you have somebody that's 20, 30 years older than you and they've been down that path already, why not take advantage of that path, right? It's like, dude, here's what I learned, right? Because just think about it, when you're 20, when you're 20, you think you know everything, right? When you get 30, it's like, crap, I didn't know anything at 20, right? Same with 40, 50, and 60. You look back, it's like, man, I was like a little kid. I had no clue, right? So it's a kind of expedite that, right? Get these mentors that are going to be able to teach you this way when, you don't have to wait to get, to 50, 60 and look back. It's like, crap, what was I doing, right? So that's great advice. Thanks, Prime. Hey, where did you get that cool name? I forgot to ask you that. I love that name, Prime.
it's a family name.
Is it really? You don't hear it
Yeah.
very often.
Yeah, no, I know. People
That's
always confuse it with Brian.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Awesome. What would you like the people listening today to know or remember about you or your business? We're almost wrapped up. That's what I'm asking.
That if you show up to Deep in Fitness, it can be a transformational, life-changing event. Not just tapping into the community of Deep in Fitness and UTL, and how amazing it is, and how much it reinforces any goals that you have in life or anything and supports that. Um, but that when you approach certain things like underwater training, where you're cutting yourself off from your air source, so it feels like you're in a survival situation, and you train yourself to do those types of things and be comfortable in those moments, then you can better deal with any stress that you have in life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to taking the training myself. So I'm really excited about it. I wish I would have had some time when Don was in town. But
Uh,
I'll definitely get it on schedule to get out to California and get out there and do that. Uh, and
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for being on today, brother. On the show, and that just want to wish you continued success. Looking forward to help you guys promote this as much as possible, and then may God bless you and your family as well. And just thank you for being on today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
All right,
God
brother.
bless you as
Let me
well.
stop this
Thank you.
recording.